Well, thank you for joining us, everybody. Today, I'm going to talk about something that's been on my mind quite a bit, particularly as children are soon going to be signing up for CXCs and they're going to be thinking of their future and that kind of thing. It's pretty much a topic that we hear discussed every single year, and at some point we also have a bit of distress when parents and children are sort of at loggerheads about this. And what it's about is that old saying, you can be anything you want to be. With a little bit of talent and a little bit of hard work and a little bit of luck, you can be anything you want to be. And my question today is it a lie? Are we setting up kids for failure? Now, if we think about ourselves and our children, we think about their dreams. And let's face it, all parents really want is their children to be happy and to have a fulfilling life. But Gaynell, what was your dream as a little kid? What did you want to be?
A lawyer. I wanted to be Matlock specifically.
Seriously. You see, we get all these outside influences coming in. Now, my daughter wanted to be a ballerina. She wanted to be a ballerina. I remember her telling me that when she was 2 when I bought her first little, ballerina outfit. And I'm afraid I had to break it to her when she was about 7 years old that of all the things that she was going to be in her life, a ballerina was not going to be likely. Not because she didn't love dance and she wasn't going to be able to dance her entire life if she wanted to be, but she didn't have a ballerina's body. She was too tall. Her legs were too short for a body that was too long. Or her body was too short for legs that were too long. I can't remember. She didn't have the athletic build. It was absolutely exquisite. But the criteria of the physicality of a ballerina was not a God-given, gift that she had actually been blessed with. Her gift lay elsewhere, so I had to smash that bubble. So my question is this lie a deception that really we have to look at in a very pragmatic way to guide our children towards their real talent? So I did some research on this to find out what's being said online by the professionals, the psychologists, the counselors, and that kind of thing. Why can you be anything you want to be is actually bad advice. So here's what I've discovered. This guy, Mike Foster, says, I've had conversations with members of the millennial generation, and this is a phrase that almost all of them have agreed they've heard throughout their entire childhood. You ever heard of too much choice dilemma?
Mm-hmm.
You go into a shoe store, to buy yourself a pair of, really great heels, and there's so much choice. You leave there with maybe the one pair that you love, that you can afford, but you've left behind 6 pairs of shoes that have your name on it.
Mm-hmm.
And your heart isn't sort of grateful for the one pair that's made your day. It's grieving over the 6 pairs that haven't happened.
Right.
Yeah? So too much choice dilemma. Are we giving our kids sort of like a raw deal on this one? You know what? Think of the criteria. If you want to be an NBA player, what do you need to have? A pair of Michael Jordans, is that going to be enough? Being 6'6", is that going to be enough? No. Enjoying to play the game of basketball, is that going to be enough? No. There's a lot more that you have to have in the mix. And believe it or not, luck has a great, great deal to do with it. So you have to take your opportunity and you have to believe that these opportunities were created exactly the way they were meant to be. This guy, Mike, says, you have a great purpose in being here on this planet, and God has put something incredible in your grasp. So, can you be anything you want to be? Is this a big lie that parents, teachers, and coaches say? Now, in all fairness, our intention as parents and teachers and so on is not to lie. And that word's actually a bit too much. We say it because we want to encourage you, we want to pump you up, and we want to get you going. But the word is definitely a bit too much. We want our kids to dream big. But the problem is that when we tell them that they can be anything, we may be setting them up for future discouragement. I wonder how many of the kids who auditioned for American Idol were told by someone they could sing, well, really well, when in reality they couldn't hold a tune if their life depended on it. The truth is, none of us can be anything or do anything that we want. Without a doubt, I'll never be a ventriloquist. What do you think you'll never be?
A gymnast.
There we go. You know what? I'm never going to be an engineer. Me and math, we don't sit a horse. Yeah? And I'm not going to be a doctor. I'm certainly not going to be a singer. And I certainly couldn't do the job I see you doing, as much as I think how exciting it would be to sit the other side of the headphones, We have to be absolutely practical about this. So why do we do it? So you may be thinking to yourself, no, I'm never ever going to tell my kids that, or my young employees, because I'm an honest person. Do you honestly think that that's not going to happen? No, it comes out so smoothly. You can be anything, you can do anything. Why do we do it? Well, first of all, we're insecure. Telling the truth, even gently, requires a deep level of emotional security. It's not so much what you say, it's how you say it. And the child we tell the truth to might reject us, or they may not like us enough to confide in us. We might, quite frankly, burst a bubble that will never, ever be inflated again. It may be that we have a need to be liked, and we allow that to eclipse our pursuit of the children's best interests. It could be that we say these things because speaking the truth takes time and work, and there may only be one truth, but many possible ways to spin it. And sometimes we lie because it gets us out of a jam. It gets us out of a jam. It gets us out of the moment that we're uncomfortable in, because we can't handle the hassle. It's going to take us too long and too much thinking and too much involvement, and we need to just get out of it. So at times, that deception just seems to make things easier for us. Sometimes the truth can be painful. My beautiful, talented daughter, who was never going to be a ballerina, the truth can hurt, and much more painful than a charming lie. At least in the short run, to most of us, pain feels like an enemy. And in the name of peace and harmony, we become spin doctors. And we so want our kids to be happy, and we sacrifice the truth in order to medicate the moment. Think about that. We're sacrificing the truth to medicate the moment. And when you face the truth, that makes you responsible. Lies sometimes let us off the hook. They allow us to pass the blame to someone else or avoid facing something we'd rather not acknowledge. Often we'd rather trade in long-term consequences for short-term benefits. Because we've lost sight of the truth ourselves, we baby boomers and Gen Xers who are raising the next generation have our own set of misconceptions that can affect our ability to be truthful, and sometimes we tell lies because we also believe them. I remember a mum coming into Lockerbie a couple of years back, and she said to me, my daughter's doing entirely the wrong subject set. And I said, well, why is that? She said, because right now she's doing all the sort of liberal arts subjects, the literature and the geography and all this kind of thing. And she's voiced her interest in becoming a doctor. I quite point blankly said, well, I think your daughter's doing exactly what she will feel fulfilled doing in life. It's where her aptitude lies. And to be perfectly honest, a doctor is going to take a lot more drive, a lot more high cognitive ability and so on. Your daughter's brain doesn't think in that kind of very linear scientific way. And I think you need to think carefully before you, change the subject stream altogether. But she said, my daughter says she wants to be a doctor. Now, I don't know where that came from. I don't know if that came from a YouTube clip or what it came from. But it ended up that the child actually changed streams. And guess what? Wasn't successful. That was not where the true aptitude lies. So sometimes, some of these pertain to me. I had to capitulate and give in because, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? It wasn't my call to make, but it was actually the wrong call that was made. There's a wonderful website, Tim Elmore, online, Growing Leaders. And he has so much wonderful, wonderful advice to give in raising the Generation Z. He says here, we live in complex times. As I work with thousands of parents and faculty members each year, I'm increasingly convinced that adults who care about kids today are more engaged than ever since he began his career in 1979. And I think that's actually true. We're actually stepping in and working alongside children like we haven't done before. Simultaneously, however, he says, I'm observing a more troubled population of children, especially by the time they reach their teen years. At first, this appears to be an oxymoron. How can such a cared-for generation experience such emotional difficulties? When parents raise their kids on large doses of affirmation, they initially create a positive environment for them. Initially. Lots of happiness and warm fuzzies and thoughts about being anything that their little heart desires. As the kids grow older, though, reality hits, and they realize that it's only their mom or their dad who's actually saying that they're completely and utterly awesome. By high school, anxiety starts to surface for millions of children, and we're seeing more and more highly anxious children every single year. They have a cell phone, a laptop, a Facebook page, a Twitter account, an Instagram profile, and they're lonely, and they're depressed, and they're anxious. They question what they've been told and who they really are. We would have served them better by speaking more honestly to them when they were actually younger. When kids fail to get a handle on the truth about their potential, they graduate from high schools and colleges and still have no idea what they want to do. This drives anxiety, because we see a lot of high school kids, children who are 15, 16, 17, 18, and they are really anxious. They don't voice it very often, but they're really anxious because they don't know what they want to do. And let's face it, they've been told, you can be anything. So we've seen that many kids will move back home. When they should be launching careers, they are taking any job. They're languishing. They're not heading in any kind of shore of their own sort of destination. Instead of working, they're actually wandering. So today's parents overwhelmingly believe their children should go to college, but according to higher education faculty feedback, more than half should not. Certainly all high school graduates need to prepare for their careers, but for many, a liberal arts degree in college just isn't the right way to do it. Edward Gordon, an internationally recognized expert in education reform and the future of the labour market, makes this absolutely clear. Work turns theory into practice, and it does wonders to mature children. So if they don't know what it is they want to do, even though you've told them they can be anything they want, don't let them languish at home. Let them get out and let them make a start. If we aren't truthful about our kids' potential, we create expectations that are either too high or too low, says Tim Elmore. Again, he says, I'm all for dreaming big, but within their gifting and not for the purpose of becoming rich or famous. Those are byproducts of performing well. Sadly, so many 18-year-old students are misplaced or displaced. And colleges report that a mere 18% of their freshmen actually graduate. This is often a necessary time and money. When you ask kids what it is they want to do, this was done, a study was done. 9.5% said they wanted to be the chief of a major company, a big COO or CEO and make a fortune. 9.8% said they want to be a Navy SEAL and do something really exciting. I wonder if they know what about Navy SEAL training is actually like. But get this. 43.4%, overwhelmingly the largest percentage, said they want to be a personal assistant to a famous celebrity. Not the famous celebrity, a personal assistant to a famous celebrity. Because becoming a celebrity's assistant was their top answer. They don't want the pressure of actually being the performer. They just want to be close to someone who lives that fairy tale lifestyle. So we've got something really interesting going on with Generation X. Online games like Second Life continue to attract attention among young people. These games allow them to pose as someone else and to live different lives with other homes and cars and possessions, and they get to live vicariously through an avatar. They get to live vicariously through you can be anything that you actually want to be. They get to be the star. None of these realities, though, are really mortifying when we look at them, but they illustrate that this generation's growing preoccupation with fame, with being someone else, someone who seems to have a better life, that's what they're actually focusing on. They're not focusing on their talents. They're not focusing on their unique strengths. They're not focusing on their contribution. They're focusing on the avatars that are out there in social media. Now, Tim Elmore says, I'm not sure whether this expanding consumption is the result of their overdosing on social media or becoming envious of other people's lifestyles, but kids believe their lives are boring when compared to other people's. So it's kind of an irony. It's a real irony. So what do? We get kids to explore their true potential. Some of your children may be highly gifted, and perhaps they should pursue some incredible calling in life. But you've got to ensure that you don't lead them astray by your idea or a friend's idea of who they are and what they should do. Kids are certainly loaded with potential to serve people and to solve problems in whatever they desire to do, whatever it is that they're good at. And that's what leaders do, Leaders serve people and they solve problems, and your child can be a leader in whatever he or she decides to do. And it's up to us to help them get ready for the calling, because the future does await them. So do you tell your child they can be anything they want to be? It's not as important, as telling them you're loved, you're safe, you're valuable, you're uniquely gifted, and you're supported. You want their happiness, but you're not going to build it on a lie. So instead of telling your child you can be anything you want to be, tell them you're going to find your passion, whatever your passion is, and I'm going to help you every single step of the way. Thanks for listening, everyone. I'll talk to you next week.